my channel. Today it's gonna be a reading vlog. I'm very excited to show you what I've been up to, what I've read in the past, and what I'm gonna be reading next. I'm very excited for the book that's coming because it's gonna be ONYX STORM from Rebecca Yarros. I have been dying to read that book because I read Fourth Wing, I think 2 months ago, and immediately afterwards I started reading Iron Flame, and that ending, I just had to read the next book and it wasn't published. I had to wait for 1 month, which is not that much compared to the people that read the book when it was published, but I was obsessed and I was like, what do I do now with my life? I was completely immersed into that world with the dragons and the Basquiat college and the characters. I was just like, where are you going? And then the worst thing is that once you enter this fantasy world, these books and all these things, that your social media will reflect upon that. And I got all these theories about what was going to happen in the next book and what their powers were, and I was like, but I can't read it yet. Why would you do this to me? So I think that was the first time that I actually was obsessed with a book like this one, because usually I could just read the next book in the series because I always got like finished series. And this was the first time I didn't do that, and I regret it so much. Well, at the same time, it also makes me think more about the plot and the storyline and the characters, so I get like, they stick with me longer, which is a good thing because I really love the book. But at the same time, I'm just like so impatient for the next one. I just need to read it right now. And I've waited because now it's February, and today I will be starting with reading the book. I'm so freaking excited. But first, I will tell you what I read before that. Basically, because I was so obsessed with Iron Flame, I thought I had to read another fantasy novel, which is how I got to We Set the Dark on Fire. I don't know about that one, if I'm being honest. I feel like it started off pretty original for me because I didn't read a prologue like that before. It was about these gods that created different women and how it divided the island that they lived on, and kind of like a fight between brothers. Each man was supposed to have one woman for like birthing their children, and one woman that was supposed to be intelligent and work with him more on an ambitious and work-life related path. They both had like different trajects and different opportunities for the man, which is kind of weird. I liked the concept of the idea, but the way it was executed kind of lacked for me. The characters were sometimes a bit flat, and their behavior was not always relatable, I feel like. I did love that there was some romance between two girls instead of it just being like between the husband and one of the wives. That was kind of like a twist in the book that I did not expect beforehand, because I don't think I read the cover of the book. I was just like, this is on my list, I will read it. The ending was very sudden and like mid-action, and I was like, is that the end? I also didn't read the second book because there is a second book, but I was like, no, that it's not for me. I did finish it, but it's not for me. Then after that, I was like, okay, so this was not the right fantasy book. I need to read another one. So I started with From Blood and Ash. Basically, I've read the books from Sarah J. Maas, and I really loved the Throne of Glass series. I kind of liked the Aquatar series, but it was less than the Throne of Glass series. I felt like that had way more impact on me. And with Aquatar, it kind of threw me off that she was first human and that was changed and had like all these powers. But yeah, okay, so I got recommended that if you liked Sarah J. Maas, you would like this book as well. And I was like, I'll give it a try. So I did that. It was a bit boring at first. I feel like there was not that much action. She was like this outcast, and she still did a lot of things though that she wasn't allowed to. At some point it did get interesting. There was a lot of things happening and evolving, and I was like, ooh, okay, I think where this is going. And then I guessed who this one person was. I'm not gonna spoil, but and then I was like, I knew it! I freaking knew it! So then I was obsessed with that book, not as much as I was with the Fourth Wing series, but I kind of was like, okay, I want to finish this and I want to see where it goes. Although I probably shouldn't have done that because in the second book that I read, Kingdom of Flash and Fire, it just felt bland again, like very boring. It's very repetitive. The conversations that are happening are the same thing over and over again, and the characters don't really stand out from each other. I feel like they're very, like they're not growing in the book. They're just the same. The only thing that's growing is their amount of powers. And like I said, I didn't really like it when they just suddenly had all these powers, which is basically what happened in this book. There was a lot more action in this one than there was in the first one, but I was still like, I did finish it because at some point there was like a lot of twists and I was like, where is this going? But I think the ending was also very abrupt and you were suddenly like, you know? And that kind of made me want to read the third book. I don't know. There is something weird about this series. Like, I don't want to read it and then I do want to read it and then I don't because I just know that it's going to be a bit bland. So I read the third book. There was so much going on in the first half, not even the first half. There was so much going on in the first parts of that book. I was like, what? What just happened? And then after that, she became so special, like the main character, that I was like, why are we reading this? Why am I reading this? This is not going anywhere. And it's still very predictable. Sure, there are some things I don't know what's gonna happen, but you know where it's gonna go in a general direction. And the characters are not doing it for me, so I was like, I put it away. And I stopped reading that. So instead I was like, what do I do then? Because if those are not hitting the spot and I cannot read the third book yet, what am I gonna do? So I started reading romance books. So I went back to my list and then I saw that I had the book Like Real People Do. And I started reading that one. It's about this hockey player who is the captain of the NHL team, and he's a very young person to be that ambitious. And then there is this figure skater who had an accident and therefore cannot reach his dreams. But they kind of come in contact, they go on a date, and then realize that it's pretty fun to be around each other, and they start to fall for each other, and the rest is history. But it's I found it a very fresh romance book, because there are certain topics that are addressed of not only being of a minority group, but also being someone who is disabled and being gay. And I feel like there's like all these different parts that come together in this book in a very soft and very light way, like light-hearted way. And I found it very cute. It was a cutesy book. So I really liked it. There is a second book though, and I don't think I'm gonna read it. I did start reading another romance book, which is The Other Bridget. It was very, very questionable at first. It was a book I think I put on my TBR because I was in Australia. The place in which this book is happening is in Perth, which is on the west-north side of Australia. Yeah. So at the start, it kind of felt like it was going to be a love triangle thing, like two men who suddenly fall in love with this one girl who seems to be like very, very bad in romance and dating. She doesn't have any luck in that department. And then suddenly there's these two guys who like her. And the first one is this guy who she sees every time she buys coffee. And then there's this second guy who she knows as her new neighbor. The start off of the new neighbor is kind of bad. Like, they have very bad impressions of each other. And then the other one, it was always like very normal conversation, because she was just like a client, and then suddenly he started hitting on her and he was like, let's go on a date together. Something threw me off about that first, like the bartender guy. It threw me off and I didn't really like where it was going. She was also like, I want to start over and I want to have like a deep relationship before I start doing anything else with this person, and I really want to get to know them. I feel like she didn't live up to that at all. She just threw herself into that dating scene and then was like, this is it. I'm going all in, I'm going for it. Girl, you don't even know his favorite color. She didn't know anything about this person. Why? But yeah, so I didn't really like that. I skipped some parts because I did want to see where it was gonna go with the neighbor. And let's just say it was better than the other guy. The way the other one ended, smooth, very smooth. It was very funny at some point, and I'm glad I continued reading it because I don't think I would have liked to stop at the point where the first date started happening with the guy from the coffee shop. But was it the best book I've ever read? Certainly not. It was good. It was normal. It was not that original. It was, yeah. So most of the books that I've read in January were kind of a flop. They were okay, they were good, they were written in a way that was easy to read, very simple, but they just weren't doing it for the book that I read before that. And even though the style of Rebecca Yarros is not that special, like, it's not like she uses flowery sentences or like very different ways of using the language. I am really excited to start reading ONYX STORM. So I'm glad that I finished those books, but that's what they are. They're just 3 stars or 2 stars rated books. And I feel like this one is building up so much anticipation for me because I keep procrastinating on starting the read. I'm afraid that it will hit hard when I do read it, and I would probably not stop. I would want to know how it ends. But we're gonna do it. So I got the book and I'm gonna start reading it. I'm so excited for this book. I can't. I only read the prologue, but okay, I have been enjoying the 2 chapters that I've read from ONYX STORM already. There's so much action because we're in the aftermath of a battle, and I'm just loving it. And I brought my e-reader with me, so I'm gonna continue reading while I eat my lunch. You know, honestly, I think there's something wrong with Brennan. I've seen a lot of like theories that he isn't what he says he is. I kinda agree. He's a bit sus sometimes. Okay, so I put on some different clothes because I was getting cold and it's a bit chilly. It even snowed yesterday, which I was very flabbergasted by. But that's fine. I thought winter was already over, but nature proves me wrong again and again. But I got new books because I went with a friend to Maastricht. We went shopping together, had some lunch at a cafe, and then we went to the bookstore. I was overwhelmed by how many books I actually wanted for my list. Even though I have an e-reader, sometimes I just like want the copy on paper. I got new ones. They got recommended by my friends, so thank you. Whoa, my chin hit the microphone. Let me show you what's in the bag. I am holding my microphone because I put it on my shirt, and while recording the other video, it messed up the audio, so we're gonna do it again. Let's look in that little baggie, shall we? So first of all, I got Mistborn from Brandon Sanderson. I'm very curious on his writing because I followed one of his courses online about creative writing, and I just know he's a legend in fantasy writing. And his books are insane with like the character development, character arcs, the world building. I'm very curious about this book. I'm very excited to start getting into his world of writing. I got recommended by my friend because she is obsessed with his books. I think she's already read 2 series. I don't actually know how many there are, but I know that they're long and they're thick, very thick. So this is probably one of my next reads. And then we got a new variant, which is Emily Wells' Encyclopedia of Fairies. I am so excited about this book. Just look at this. Look how pretty it is. I know, right? It's just shining. I'm very curious about this book. It's about this researcher who is a woman, and she goes to this very secluded area where she wants to see and like do research about the fairies that live there. And I think it opens up like a whole world for her. But there's also an enemy who is doing similar research, I think. And she's like, I don't like that this person is here, but sure, let's do this. It also got recommended by that friend because she loved this series. And I think she mentioned something about that it's written like a notebook of a study, like a kind of like a diary thing. And I'm very curious about that because I've done research for my bachelor's and I'm very interested in how she implements that in this story and her way of writing. And I think it will be very different from all the other fantasy books that I've read. They're all kind of like in a similar genre. I also read a lot of books from V. Schwab about like the different Londons and the Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And I really love those stories because they're also not focused on the smut in the books. Thank you very much. So I'm very excited about this book.
the starlit sky, our love secret line. Like leaves we soar so high. Beneath the moonlight, soft touch your hand in mine gets me every.
So, it's been a few days since I last filmed for this vlog, and oh, what the fuck? I'm in chapter 51 right now, and the last sentence of the previous chapter was that they were gonna be attacked. Some of the things that I expected to happen in this book haven't happened yet, and I'm quite sure that all of that will be dumped in the last few chapters. And I'm so afraid that I've been procrastinating reading this book for 2 whole days. At the same time, I'm very curious where it's gonna go because, like I said, some of the stuff that I expected to happen haven't happened yet. I just feel like one of the dragons is gonna die, or Satan dies or something. Like, it has to be drastic because so many of the theories about this book, what was gonna happen, are pointed at a death of someone very important. Okay, so my e-reader says that I'm on page 912 of 1138. So roughly 200 pages. But we're gonna continue reading, and I hope I will finish it today, but I'm not sure. I'm also very excited to continue writing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have another project in which I'm writing a fantasy novel myself. I have nothing completely planned out. A lot of things are still changing. And if you're curious about this book and see where I'm going with this, what I'm gonna be writing about, and you just want to follow the journey, check out my other video. There will be more to come, so if you want to continue following my journey, make sure you subscribe. But yeah, so let's continue reading this book. I even messaged my friends last night and I was like, I can't do this, I can't continue, and they all haven't read the book, so I cannot spoil anything for them. It's so hard. But without further ado, let's get started with reading. That's not what I expected. Well, it does make sense. That's so sad. I don't know if I want to continue reading the other 100 pages. This is so confusing. What? What is happening? Rebecca, why are you putting everything at the end of the book? Hello, and welcome back. I just finished ONYX STORM. It's been, I think, 5 days since I started reading the book. That was an emotional roller coaster. I feel like the book, these are going to be spoilers, by the way. So if you have not read the book yet, don't continue listening to what I'm saying. If you have, let's talk about it together, because I need to tell this to someone who has read the book and my friends haven't. So we're going to do it like this. I loved how we were in the middle of the aftermath of a battle when we started the book. It's what you expect. I kind of knew that there were going to be secrets again, that Violet had to lie and prevent Xaden from being murdered because he was becoming a Venin. I kind of hoped that he would not turn into a Venin, but at the same time I was like, how would that even be possible? But I had not expected that the ending of the book would be like this. You know, I really liked when we went from island to island searching for the 7th dragon species. It also introduces to a lot more of the world, and not just like the War College, the continent, and it gave us so much more knowledge about like the different gods and the priestesses and the path that probably Violet is gonna take with Donna and whoever else. I feel like I was so sad when Adana ruptured the bond with Violet. I was like, she did not just do that. And then I was like, no, it's not gonna be that spectacular anymore. But boy, was I wrong. I hated that everything that was happening and that we kind of like guessed that was happening all at the end of the story. I loved how we went back to the college, we searched for the species, and we had like these new conflicts. But all the big things happened at the end. It was so intense. I love that Rebecca played into the fact that Violet always wants to be the hero for all and wants to save everyone when she couldn't do that and had to take one path. That was really interesting, I thought. Also, I really liked the different point of views because mostly we're just reading from Violet, except for like the bonus chapters of Xaden, but all the other ones are just her perspective. And it was really cool to like see it in the battle when all the different things were happening all over the place. It felt like you were like really into the story because you got so many different points of views. And the fact that they got like hit with a net with the dragons, and that Xaden finally turned Venin just because he wanted to save Sigil. I loved that Eric knows what is happening and has like these minor inclusions that are changing the plot like for the best. Can we talk about the fact that not only were we revealed that Xaden turned Venin, but that someone else who was in his proximity also turned Venin. There's a few like writers missing. The ones that like, what if it's Dane? Because he was only there when they tried to save Mira, and I feel like his power is pretty useless in battle because it can only be used to like get to know secrets when you capture someone, but not necessarily to attack someone. So I feel like it could be him, which would be insane because he's not a brother to Xaden. So that kind of doesn't work, I feel like. But he would never be able to lift a finger to Violet, I think. So it is a possibility. And then you have Bodhi. He was constantly being sad that he couldn't fight in the battle because he was supposed to be the next in line for Terrandor. And I feel like that could maybe anger him and want to help. Maybe he would want to help more and then tapped from the ground. But I feel like Garrick is also a very good possibility because he just used all his powers with his distance wielder abilities, and I feel like he was pretty drained at the end, but he still wanted to fight and like help all the others. And he was vomiting, I think, when Imogen looked at him on the ground. So I feel like maybe he tapped. There's all these possibilities on who that person is, but where did those other writers go to? Did they die? Did they turn Fanon as well? Or did they just go on a different mission? Like, what happened with all the extra warriors that were supposed to come and help that Eric sent? I feel like there are so many loose threads, and I'm so excited to read the other book, but I can't because she didn't even start writing yet, which I don't blame her because writing a book is tough. And sometimes you just need a break from a story. But we need to know what happens to our favorite characters, you know? Also, I'm confused because I know that Violet was there. She slayed the Fanon Theopani. I have no clue how to pronounce that name. But she slayed her. She killed her. And then Adarna was there again, which is weird because she was supposed to be away. Then we have the ONYX Storm from Xaden, in which he finally turns Fanon, but he still wants Sigil to help him with something. And then suddenly Violet loses all her memories of the last 12 hours, and she is married. What does that ring mean? What does the text mean that was connected to that ring of it's hers now? What is hers? I think I saw some theories that it could be his soul, and that soul is now stuck inside the ring itself because it also had the gem, I believe, of the Sword of Erasia. But I don't know. I'm very curious on what happened in those 12 hours and how much how much influence Imogen actually has had in the story, because if she keeps like wiping the memories of different writers, what else has been fed to us that is a lie, you know? Maybe Violet doesn't know certain things and she never will because they wiped her memories. What if we're only fed a certain perspective because we're only seeing Violet's perspective? I'm very curious. I'm gonna take a break from that and I will read some other books that are a little bit lighter, and then I will get back into the fantasy novels again because that's my favorite genre. But that ending literally made me question even more of what was being told in the book, and it didn't give me a lot of answers, and I think this is the same for a lot of readers that read the book. Anyways, that was the end of this video. I hope you liked it. If so, press that like button down below and let me know in the comments what you thought about the book, who you think turned Fanon together with Xaden, and what basically happened in those 12 hours that Violet went missing and lost her memories. I love to hear all your theories. Bye!